Okay.
Hello, this is Janet Gallen welcoming you to Love Letters Live. And today's guest is someone the entire world knows. You all know George Chakiris. And you know him from many things. I guess, George, you're most well known for West Side Story as
Yeah, of
Bernardo,
course.
right?
Yeah,
Although you've
absolutely.
done an enormous amount of other work.
Oh, I've done lots of things, but that's all of us who are no matter our association with that film, everybody associated with that film is most remembered for that project.
I can
So
see why.
not yeah, Rita, Russ, Leonard Bernstein, everybody.
Yes. Let me ask you something. Um, just kind of to start with you from the beginning,
Okay,
Les. you were you're American born to Greek ancestry, right?
right.
Did,
Yes.
did you grow up speaking Greek at home?
Oh well, I use not now. If I could learn it again I I could practice with someone, but I would need practice to. I can say a few small things, but just small things right now.
Okay. Okay. And so at what point did you realize that you were destined for the kind of glorious entertainment that you ended up in? I mean, I'm gathering that you started off as a dancer.
That my first job was as a dancer, absolutely. But as a kid, uh, I had access to movies only, not theater. Didn't know theater existed at that time, but I fell in love with the movies, like so many of us do, especially movie musicals. I just loved the beauty of those musical numbers, the shiny floor, the beautiful stars, and the
How,
people in the
how, did- how,
back.
did, how did you how did you know that you were destined to be a dancer? I
Well,
mean,
I know.
that's a specific thing.
I wouldn't have used myself the word destined, because who knows? But one of my sisters, Catherine, was 5 years older than me, and she and I were the only two in our family who really loved dancing. So we used to dance in the living room all the time.
Mhm.
So when it came to my attention, there was a girl that I went to school with, Joan Scanlon, and it was Joan who told me about the American School of Dance in Los Angeles on Hollywood Boulevard. She said Sid Charisse takes class there, Leslie Caron takes class. Well, that's all I had to hear.
But so
So
you were older by then. You weren't like some little kid going to dancing school.
well, I did my first dance. I didn't take my first dance class until I was 19.
Wow.
It just things evolved that way. I didn't know that I should even study dance, but when Joan brought that to my attention, and I knew of this school, I knew I had to study there, and I did.
So you
Um,
came to LA by yourself.
I'm sorry.
You came to LA by yourself.
I did, yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I got a room in a rooming house on Hollywood Boulevard. I got a job at the May Company downtown LA, working as advertising as an office boy in the advertising department.
Uh-huh.
I worked at the May Company from 8 till 5 every day, and I took class every night.
Uh-huh.
And that was my first experience dancing and taking dance class and meeting other dancers as well who were already working in some of the movie musicals.
So you had something you had the thought open to you. I mean, it's so what was your first job? By the way, I did read a little something about you and that you used to go by the Grauman's Chinese Theater. And
Yeah, yeah. I first went to the American School of Dance. Eventually, they gave me a scholarship at the school, and my duties to have the scholarship were to just clean the studio every night at the end of the day. So I was by myself at the American School of Dance, sweeping the floors and cleaning the mirrors and all of that, locking the dressing rooms, and then when I finished, I would walk home on Hollywood Boulevard to the rooming house and I would pass Grauman's Chinese Theater every night.
wow.
And it was quiet in those days. No tourists. No, it was just there was nobody
You know,
there.
I grew up there and I lived not too far away from that. And that was kind of the weekend, the Saturday playland to go to movie. Where was the rooming house? May I ask?
Oh, ask me that again. Sorry.
Where was the rooming house? Hollywood and what?
It was. I rented a room. I had a bathroom I could use,
Huh.
but I that's what I could have. And listen, when you're that young, it doesn't matter. You can do anything, and nothing is a hardship ever.
Yeah.
You're just grateful. You're just happy to be where you are.
So now you have written a book called My Own West Side Story or My West Side Story.
Yes,
And
yes.
what made,
Well,
what
I'm
made you
sorry.
decide? Well, I just wondered, after a lifetime of work, what made you decide to write a book and let people know more about you?
Well, I became friendly with a wonderful writer. His name is Lindsay Harrison, and I ended up doing the book with Lindsay. And Lindsay had done books with other people. One person that I knew was Tippi Hedren. Lindsay did work with Tippi on her book. It's a
Uh-huh.
beautiful book, and Tippi, of course, is wonderful. So that's how it came to be, and I just I didn't jump in, but I just started trying. The hardest part was trying to remember things
All right.
because there were gaps where I couldn't even remember where I was, much less what I was doing. But it's the good thing. The book is a good thing altogether in terms of working on it because it reminded me of how lucky I had been
Sure.
given over the years and the wonderful people I've gotten to work with. All of them is so I loved the experience of doing the book, and it was the publishers who came up with the title of the book.
Uh-huh.
They thought that was what I should call it. It made sense to me, so of course we did.
Right. What was the most joyous part of your work? I mean, when you look back
Yeah.
at your
What
life, the most joyous things that you did in work.
Well, the joy is working in the chorus of some of those great movie musicals, working in the chorus of Gentlemen for Blondes with Marilyn
By the way, I
Monroe.
can lip sync that whole movie.
I'm sorry?
I can lip sync that whole movie. I've seen it.
It's a wonderful movie. And Jack Cole, the choreographer, Marilyn always wanted him, and she was right. He was fantastic. But that number that he did for her, "The Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend,"
Uh-huh.
is such a great number. And he did a lot of wonderful movie musical numbers. Uh, but that comes to mind. I love working behind Rosie Clooney and that number she sings so beautifully, "Love You Didn't Do Right by Me," because in that number there were just four of us behind her, so we're kind of visible. Normally you were 16 people in the background, but so the joy of working on that number, first of all, was Rosie. She was just the loveliest person in the world, and we knew we were closer to camera in that number, and that felt good.
Yeah. Can you feel a difference in yourself? I mean, okay, you don't know this about me. I'm a dreadful busybody. And really, and I have a question that I'm kind of curious about with you. You have gone from being an exceedingly handsome young man to an exceedingly handsome older man, but with a kind of a cover of something different, a cover of comfort.
I never thought of that.
Okay, well,
Um,
I could be wrong. I looked at some pictures of you at this stage in your life, and it
uh-huh.
looks like a slightly different man than you did when you were young. Do you feel any different?
Well, gosh, I suppose I probably do feel different, but no, I don't feel different. I think I've always been quiet. I've always been somewhat reserved,
Oh,
and even with my friends, I was always the quiet one in the room because I love listening. So that's basically how I would describe myself then and now, is just being the quiet person in the room more than the one who's doing all the
okay.
talking. Yeah.
I guess you didn't look like the quiet person because of the roles you were playing. When you see somebody do a high kick like that, you
Yeah.
don't picture a quiet person. And
Well, yeah, and you know what? So many, I think a lot of performers are quiet people.
oh, I found that to be true. Yes,
I'm sorry?
I said I have found that to be true.
Yes, yeah. Marilyn Monroe, for example, I never spoke to her, never didn't know her at all. But working in the course of that number, "Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend," the thing I didn't notice at the time, but I thought of it afterwards, how quiet she was and how concentrated she was on her work. That's where she put her focus and her energy and her feelings. It wasn't talking to the people around her. She was focused on the work. And I do think there's I'm not sure, but I think there's some people who are quote unquote quiet express themselves in their work.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
going to say, there's probably something comfortable about having a role.
There absolutely there is, because you know how it all turns out,
Yeah.
and so you can focus on the role and what that role, what that person, what that character is saying and who they are. And the wonderful thing about acting, whether it's in the theater or on film, again, you know the beginning, the middle, and the end. It's, so there's comfort in that, and also no matter who you're playing, because it's not you, you can express yourself in a way that is through that character and not through you. So you're expressing, you can engage and connect with feelings from another character and express those. And there's something not comforting, but there's something wonderful in that expression. It's a release in a way, I guess.
I bet. Did you identify strongly with the characters that you play? See, I watch a movie now. I know this is silly, but when I see a character in a movie, I believe that's the person. Now I know that's a tribute to good acting.
Yeah.
So I look at Bernardo and I think that's who George Chakiris is.
Well, in terms of I, without realizing it, I didn't think about it at the time, but I really did identify with who he was, what was happening to him in his life, what life was like for him and his family coming to America and hoping and dreaming, and then discovering prejudice, for example. But I'm sorry. I tend to give long answers and then I forget where I started.
Oh, I do that all the time. Yes.
Yeah, but
We were talking about identifying with the characters that you play. Did you feel like Bernardo? And you,
well, yes, I guess I did feel like Bernardo, because I remember once it wasn't we weren't it was between shots, as it were. I was walking from the dressing room. We shot at Golden Studios here in Los Angeles, and I was walking down the street one way to the set, and I was wearing the black shark skin suit with the purple shirts, and at that moment, walking to the stage, I really was kind of just struck by the strength of that costume and how Irene Sheriff designed that costume so beautiful for Bernardo. So she helped us be the characters that we were, but I bet just by her design.
you know,
But
I can,
that
I can understand that because I've seen movies and been aware of the fact that the clothing, that the costume design, the costume itself is
yeah,
actually one of part of the is one of the characters.
absolutely.
That you,
It really, yeah, yeah. You know, there was an exhibit at the museum at the Academy maybe a couple of years ago. It was a wonderful exhibit, and they had videos of different people speaking. And one of them was Meryl Streep. And she was talking in that particular moment about when I can't remember what role it was. Maybe she was carrying a handbag as the character. And now, most people, not most people, many actors or actresses in this case, would just carry the bag, and she had to know what was inside,
oh,
and things inside the bag had to be things that her character would really use. No one would ever see it or know it, but she knew it.
so she
And
would
how
internalize that as part of
yes,
how
and that's the beauty of these kinds of things, with costume design, and how important that is to creating a character.
sure. What is it in your book, which I will read later? Well, I don't like to know too much when we start talking because
I understand. Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
what is it that you want people to know about you, if you can say?
Well,
I have a question
gosh.
about your parents. Uh-huh.
Well, I my parents were the most. My sisters and brothers and I couldn't have asked for better parents. We were born into to really such wonderful people. They were ethical, they were kind, they were generous, they were loving. Every good thing you think about, they were. And that's what I grew up with. And I thought everybody was like that, you know, but not everybody was like that, but
No,
they were. That was my background.
and that's a
And
wonderful
yeah,
thing to be able to say about your parents.
well, yeah, because it's so easy to say about them because it's the truth and because how what a loving environment we all grew up in. I remember one of the places we lived was in Long Beach, California, and in the living room, there were two large rectangular thick windows, and at night they were sort of like mirrors. So my sister Catherine and I would dance in front of those and want, you know, dream, but also in those days there really wasn't television hadn't started, so the way we were as a family, my mother would cook, you know, and we'd all sit at the dinner table together. We'd eat together, then we'd wash and we'd dry and all that, and
Mhm.
then we'd sit in the living room after dinner and be with each other. It was so we, as a family, we really spent valuable time
Isn't
with each other.
that's a you know, we're about the same age,
Yeah,
so I remember that as well. You know, after dinner we would talk. Dinner would last for a long time.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not, um, so I'm just curious. Did you ever, were you a letter writer? Only because
Mm,
I'm about love letters and letter writing. And when you talk about your parents, I picture love letter. I'm ready to write a love letter to them.
well, that's I know that over the years I did when I was traveling. I would, of course, write to my parents if I was in Japan or somewhere. I would write, and I guess it was kind of a love letter. I didn't think of it that way, but it was a loving letter to my parents wherever I was because I knew they wanted to know how I was and what I was doing and how things
And
were.
I say that counts as a love letter. You know, you're writing to them out of love for them so that they'll know
Yeah,
where you are,
yeah.
what you're doing, and most important, that you're okay.
Yes, that you're okay. Always, always that you're okay. Yeah, yeah.
Tell me about, I know that you have segued into silver jewelry making. How did
Well,
it come
yeah,
about?
that start. I've lost. I'm terrible with time. I don't know. I've been doing that for quite some time. It started as a hobby, and it just accidentally became more. I went to a wonderful school here in Los Angeles, Barnstable, where you could take classes in sculpting, all
Oh,
kinds
I
of
was going to ask you because you have to learn how to take silver and mold.
Yes, yes, I did. The different ways of working with silver or creating something in silver, whether with a wax mold and so on. And I've learned a lot more since then. And I have a freestanding garage next to the house, which I turned into a studio where I could do my soldering and all of that stuff. So I really did learn how to make things.
Uh-huh.
I also got a lot of help because with that experience, I became very familiar with the jewelry district downtown Los Angeles and with a couple of manufacturers. So I was, without trying to, I was learning as I was going along. And with one of the manufacturers downtown, I met a Japanese distributor who liked some of my stuff and wanted to distribute it in Japan. So that was my first professional venture, as it were, into it. And he's still my distributor in Japan. So, and I still work with the people in downtown Los Angeles. I have a manufacturer in Thailand as well, but I prefer to do it here if I can.
Oh, wait,
But
wait.
anyway,
You have,
so it'd be,
you
go
say you
ahead.
have a manufacturer, so you can actually make the physical pieces yourself,
Yeah,
and
I,
you can have somebody if you need to have, like, would you have like six of one kind of thing made, or how do you do that?
it
I
would,
noticed that we can buy
it,
things on your website.
it would depend on what kind of an order came in. For example, once you have the original piece, you then, from the original piece, you create a mold to
Uh,
then make more pieces of the same design. And depending on the order, you can make two, you can make five, you can make as many as you want. But every piece, I made all the original pieces, and once the original piece was something we liked, we then made a mold so that we could recreate and make more of that piece for sale.
mhm. Yes,
It was fun.
it's interesting looking, your pieces. They have interesting dimensions to them. They're not just
Well, one of the beauties of maybe other way of jewelry is you can start with an idea, you can start with a sketch, you can start kind of accidentally, but once you actually created something, the lovely thing about jewelry is you can hold it in your hand.
yeah.
And so it's you can see it, you can feel it, and all it's a really nice arc of creating something and the satisfaction of having created something.
Do you have your things shown in like kind of boutique or specialty? I'm asking this because I can think of a couple of jewelry stores that specialize in silver and interesting looking silver. Do you go to those kind of places?
I've never tried that. I think I'm lazy. I don't, but and by the way, all I my everything I do is in silver. I haven't gone to gold or anything like. I keep it in silver. I fell in love with silver, but the only place I'm selling aside from my website is basically in Japan through my Japanese distributor.
Mm.
Um, I came close to a couple of things here, but they never materialized really.
And now it's a difficult time because people aren't going into stores and browsing like we used to.
There we are, yeah, and I think everybody's being more careful how they spend their money as well, yeah. Yeah,
On the,
I have, yeah, go
I was
ahead, sorry.
saying, on the other hand, it's so lovely to be able to go to somebody's website or do something online and just order yourself something, let PayPal take care of it, and then you get a gift in the mail.
Yeah, I buy things online sometimes, and it is fun to have a package delivered to your house, and it's like a gift.
That's right.
It's like a present,
As if someone thought of you and delivered you exactly what you want.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
How
yeah,
nice is that?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So,
so things are good with you.
I'm sorry.
I say things are good with you at this stage in your life.
Well, touch wood thing. Yes, hey, you never know, but right now things are
I
good.
just as of right this second.
Yes, yeah. Well, you know what it is. It's I still have. I don't have all of my family, but I have a few of them, and friends. Friends are so important
Oh
and
yeah.
kind of everything in a way.
Yes. And are you still able to keep in touch with all your closest? I find it harder right now. The isolation kind of
Well,
slips us away a little bit. It takes
well,
more to keep in touch.
yeah, we've all managed to keep in touch via email and things like that.
Mm.
People are reluctant to meet in person, but now I've had both shots, and some of my friends have gotten there. So now we're going to be more comfortable with being seeing each other in person.
Right.
But it will all of that is going to evolve, and I think eventually get back to some kind of normal and be able to socialize again because we all really miss everybody I think misses not being able to see people.
Well, not being able to see, and I don't know how physical a person you are, but like I miss being able to just,
Absolutely,
I miss having an
absolutely,
armful.
yeah. And we've even had to be careful with that, haven't we? Because we're not supposed to hug people. They don't shake hands even; they just hit fists.
Well, unless your arms are each 3 feet long and you can stay 6 feet apart, you don't be shaking hands.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. But it's getting it's getting better. We're going to see what the light at the end of the mine. Yeah, it's coming.
Oh, I'm sure we are. Yes, and we're learning patience.
Well, that's I hear the news like we all hear the news, and with some of these states opening up, in my opinion, um, too early.
Well,
It's
I agree.
yeah. We shouldn't do that until we're in a more safe place, because people do cross from state to state, and then people move around, and so things aren't contained as they should be. It's still not. I don't think Hawaii or Texas come to mind because I know that state is opening up. But it's good that things are moving along and we can feel better, and I think we do feel better. But I think it's still time. It's appropriate to be cautious, and as they say, pay attention to the science.
I agree. Let me ask you something about what you've learned to do without, if you have. I think most of us, because we've had to be isolated and there are things that we have not been able to do,
Yeah.
that we've learned
Well,
that we don't
gosh,
need what?
well, going to the theater, going to see a play, going to the ballet. I've just recently I've thought to myself, there's a writer that I know has been a close confidant of the Santa Fe Ballet, which is now finally just being disbanded because
Oh,
they're going to. But my point is, dancers, actors, people in the theater, what do they do? There's nowhere to go at
right.
the moment. Yeah, I have friends who are producers in New York, and they were thinking and hoping that it would open up this year, but now they don't expect it till next year. But so the things I miss are those kinds of experiences: going to the theater, going to a movie, going to see a ballet, going to a concert, going to the Hollywood Bowl.
Yes.
Yeah, all of that.
But
Miss all.
these are things that we have had to do without, that we don't want to do without. And we are looking to the time where we don't have to do without. What about things that you have learned that you don't care about anymore? Like for me, obviously, I don't get my hair colored anymore. And I look
Well,
at myself and I
well,
wear,
you look
I wear
great.
the same thing every day, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
You know,
Well, I look at
what about you?
I put we everybody's on Zoom, whether it's the news and
Right, right.
Rachel Maddow or anybody, and so people we've grown accustomed to people in business being much more casual
Yeah,
because and people are from at home as we see them, the different journalists and
yeah.
reporters and so on, and so but there's something nice about that. It's nice to relax about those things and not, think, oh my God, I really have to look as good
Well,
as I can for
you
this.
make a good point there. I have a friend way in the beginning of this pandemic, somewhere around April. I was talking to him and I said, how are you doing with all this isolation? And he said, well, he said, I've always been kind of not a hermit, but like you. I mean, a solo person. And he
Hmm.
said, and people used to kind of criticize me for it. I
Hmm.
like staying home more than I like going out. And it didn't get me such a good name. And he said, now all of a sudden I'm patriotic.
Well, there's an agent that a New York agent, and I think she likes working by herself anyway. But of course, she has to do almost everything from home.
Right.
So I think everybody is, and so she's isolated in that sense. But I think we've all. And by the way, I think now once travel is easy and all of that, I think because we've all learned from this experience from Zoom that you can meet with people and
Yeah,
not necessarily have to be in the same room. So
right.
that will, I can have a meeting in London and
I
not have to
know.
necessarily fly to London. So I think people will make use of that much more now. It'll be nice to fly to London, but if we can use Zoom in a really productive way.
I agree. I had one of my guests, I was unaware. I mean, I was at some point new to Zoom and I was unaware of the power of it. And a woman got in touch with me and she wanted to be on Love Letters Live. And I always say, where do you live? Because I figure if you live down the street, good, we can.
Yeah.
Dublin,
Yeah.
Ireland. Well, Zoom Dublin, Ireland. It was like she was sitting next door.
Yes.
It is
Yes.
really such a miracle.
Well, this is my second with you. It's
Uh,
my second time on Zoom, so I'm just now figuring how to do it. I have a friend who's helping me. Thank God. I'm terrible with anything technical, but it's so nice to be able to visit with you this way.
I agree.
I
And by
do.
the
I
way,
feel I'm in the same room.
I do too. And I feel like
Yeah.
I'm relating to you, like, but I do have
Yeah.
something to say. As far as how difficult all this is to get used to, this is so much easier than learning to drive.
Well, there's the so it is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not to mention looking for parking. Anyway, thank you so much for doing this with me.
And paying for parking and all that.
Right. Yes. It's easier in so
Yeah,
many ways. It's just
yeah.
lovely. Well, I'm just delighted that I got to meet you this way. If
Well, it's
you
been
are,
awfully nice to meet you, I have to say.
if you are ever in San Francisco, once we can travel again,
Oh,
come to me for dinner. I cook, and we'll be able to be
Oh,
at the same house by then.
well, hopefully I'll be able to take you up on that. I have a wonderful friend in San Francisco that I've not seen for a while, and I have some friends in San Jose as well. So once we can do it, I'm traveling.
Terrific, terrific. I'm glad to hear it. Okay, dear. Thank you.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you again, either on Zoom or in person. And
Okay.
good
I
luck.
look forward to that too. Thank you so much.
And
Thank you.
it's so nice to meet the man behind the high kick. Very impressed with that kind of thing. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
I will
Thank
just
you.
tell you goodbye for now. And
Okay.
we'll talk another time.
We'll talk another time. Thank you. Have a nice day. Okay.
Bye.